In today's video, we're going to check out the top 5 best gaming GPUs in 2019. I made this list based on my personal opinion, and I tried to list them based on their price, quality, durability, and more. To find out more information about these GPUs, you can check out the description below. At number 5, it's the Radeon RX 560. AMD's Radeon RX 500 series is a quick and small update of last year's GPUs and with new names. However, there were some upgrades that make this series better and more competitive than its predecessors. As the last year's Radeon RX 460 was a great option for entry-level gaming GPUs, the 560 does it better, with more shaders and higher clocks. Since last year, AMD has drastically improved its drivers, and the Polaris 11 GPU lodges 3 billion transistors into 123 square millimeters of die space. The Radeon RX 560 also has the same price tag as its predecessor. Now the Polaris 11 is fully activated and all cores are enabled, achieving the full effect of the 14nm process. Speaking about specifications and improvements, the RX 560 has 14% more cores and they're all clocked about 6% higher for better performance. There are different versions of the AMD Radeon RX 560, most notable being the 2GB VRAM version and the 4GB VRAM versions. If you want to get the best value from the GPU, buy the 2GB version, which is nearly the same, and the GPU doesn't have enough power to use the full 4GB. But if you want the extra kick from the 4GB version and have a little extra money set for the GPU, then you definitely want to stick with this one. Over the course of testing, this GPU with an optimized entry-level system with Ryzen 5 1400 CPU and 8GB of RAM, the AMD Radeon RX 560 performed very well in a wide variety of games, achieving pretty good frame rates with medium quality settings. It averaged about 60 frames per second, which is a pretty good number. All this translates to a decent entry-level performance, and AMD has done a good job of making the race for the entry-level GPU market competitive again. Now the GeForce GTX 1050 is under stress. On the downside, the RX 560 consumes more power than its competitor and requires an external PCIe power connector, and overclocking options are not very good. But if these don't bother you, the AMD Radeon RX 560 is a great entry-level GPU. At number 4, it's the MSI GeForce GTX 1660 Ti. A year and a half ago, Nvidia unveiled its Turing architecture, which promised real-time ray tracing and deep learning. But we saw that the real-time ray tracing was pretty cool, but it would tank the performance, a thing not so welcome in gamer circles. So a while ago, Nvidia applied the same Turing architecture without real-time ray tracing and deep learning. The GTX 1660 Ti was born. Pure performance. The graphics unit, which was continued with those features, is the RTX 20 series, which costs a lot more than the mid-range pricing of the GTX 1660. Nvidia has named this graphics unit GTX to distinguish it from the RT and Tensor Core featuring RTX 20 series. That tech is not replaced with anything else, it just cuts the cost of the product. But don't worry, all the other Turing architecture updates are there, like the support for variable rate shading, simultaneous INT and FP operations, rapid FP16 packed math, and improvements in the cache and hierarchy. The Turing architecture GPUs are built with 12nm FinFET process and use GDDR6 memory. It's meant to be sold to a more mainstream crowd, to a larger audience. It improves performances in every number, it has more cores, better VRAM and performance overall. It also has 20% more CUDA cores that are very capable of producing high performance. Furthermore, there's a 50% increase in memory bandwidth, courtesy of the GDDR6. In theory, the higher clock speeds of the GPU would result in 25% better performance, and combined with the architectural changes, it's more than that. The MSI iteration of the GPU is the GeForce RTX 1660 Ti Gaming X6G that features the MSI Torx Fan 3.0. The latest design of the fan features 2 different fan blade builds to improve focus airflow and static pressure for an even better cooling performance. But to run that beast, you'll need a minimum of 400-watt power supply that packs 8-pin PCIe power connectors. That is the bare minimum, so it's recommended you get at least 500 watts for worry-free operation. To conclude, this is a no-frills GPU that doesn't offer the features of the high-end models, but offers comparable performance that most gamers are thankful for. At number 3, it's the RTX 2080 Ti. The RTX 2080 Ti is the newest and ultimate gaming GPU for 4K gaming, and with interesting technologies like the real-time ray tracing and deep learning that give us a peek into the future of the gaming industry. NVIDIA's RTX 2080 Ti features the same Turing architecture in its graphics unit, a unit that is super powerful and will provide amazing visuals at amazing frame rates. The NVIDIA has tried to provide something better than everybody else here, and to some point it has. This work of art has 18.9 billion transistors placed inside it. It takes the place of the second largest GeForce GPU ever made. The Turing architecture makes the GPU not only more efficient, but also the Turing SM, Tensor Core and RT Core. The RTX 2080 Ti's Tensor Core engine displays 114 T-flops AI engine at the RT Core is able to produce 10 gigarays per second of ray tracing acceleration. Mind-boggling features with new terminology and stats, but long story short, the NVIDIA RTX 2080 Ti utilizes the ray tracing and DLSS graphics technologies the best. The GPU has a memory bandwidth of 616 GB per second, very far away from second place. The device also has 11 GB of GDDR6 RAM, one of the biggest reasons as to why the 2080 Ti is able to produce those frame rates for 4K gaming. Moreover, the GPU also has 4,352 CUDA cores that are known to improve the performance significantly. The boost clock speed is also improved from its predecessor to 1,635 MHz. You'd expect that after all those high specs and numbers, the power consumption of the GPU has risen dramatically. However, it hasn't. The power consumption of the RTX 2080 Ti is just 260 watts, 10 watts more than its predecessor, the GTX 1080 Ti. It will be a shame not to touch a little on the real-time ray tracing. It basically means extraordinary lighting effects that come really close to photorealism. Also, it creates unique shadows and reflections. The DLSS lets gamers enjoy the amazing ray tracing without suffering from frame rate drops. So if you want the best of the best and are ready to pay its premium price, then the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti is perfect for you. At number 2, it's the MSI Radeon RX 570. If you want to get the most performance per dollar ratio in the market, then you'll find no better choice than the AMD Radeon RX 570. Even though the market will be definitely dominated by real-time ray tracing and DLSS, there's no question that the RX 570 is still one of the best ones that your hard-earned money can buy. It's the budget gamer's absolute hero. It's still the same Polaris GPU architecture that was found in the RX 470 with 12nm process. Actually, AMD's taken the same Polaris GPU that was used in the 400 series, and with the now experienced manufacturing of theirs made, gave us the more functional GPU. Basically, the GPU will get better and bigger yields from the actual wafers, resulting in fully functional GPUs, pushing harder than the RX 470, which is why it has a higher reference clock. The GPU has the same 2048 4th generation graphics core Next cores, 128 texture units and 32 ROPs, proving that with a little bit of overclocking you can get the same performance that you'd get in the more expensive AMD Radeon RX 580. A side result of the higher clock speeds produced by the Polaris 20 GPU inside the RX 570, the system drains more power. It's rated with a 150-watt thermal design point. The main difference from its predecessor is in the memory system. The GPU comes equipped with either 4GB or 8GB of VRAM. However, it has a reference clock that starts at 7 GHz for its GDDR5 memory, improving the memory bandwidth score significantly. Moreover, the GPU runs at 224 GB per second. The biggest selling point of this card is that in its league it provides the best value. Absolutely no other graphics card performs better at that price. It smashes both NVIDIA GPUs and other AMD Radeon GPUs. It's an amazing graphics card which will deliver amazing frame rates at 1080p on ultra settings. NVIDIA has produced nothing that can compete with the RX 570. It has become a go-to graphics unit for budget builds. With the ability to overclock it and the low power consumption, combined with its extraordinary price, the RX 570 will serve you for a long time. And at number 1, it's the GeForce RTX 2060. Coming in with NVIDIA's 20 series, the NVIDIA RTX 2060 is the cheapest of the bunch, but don't assume that this is a budget GPU. Actually, it belongs somewhere in the mid-range and provides top-of-the-class performance. It's equipped with the latest Turing architecture and has the latest features of the ray tracing and DLSS technologies. Although it's not just those features, it has a performance output better than its similarly priced counterparts. Spec-wise, the RTX 2060 outputs some interesting numbers. It has a 6GB of GDDR6 VRAM, which certainly helps its performance, but it's not a significant boost from its predecessor. It has a similar setup as the RTX 2070, built based on the same TU106 processor, featuring a single 8-pin power connector and dual fans. It's very similar to it in every aspect. It just has a reduced CUDA core count of 1920 cores and 5 gigarrays instead of 6 in the RTX 2070. Basically, the CUDA cores are responsible for much of the heavy lifting done in the GPU. It's maybe the main influencer of the frame rate count. With the introduction of the real-time ray tracing and DLSS, Nvidia is dictating the future of gaming. Sadly, there are not a lot of titles that support ray tracing or DLSS, and there are only 2 titles that support both technologies at the same time: Battlefield V and Metro Exodus. But there are a lot of new titles set to support both of these technologies in the future. Amazing future-proofing from Nvidia. Moreover, we know the bargaining power of Nvidia and getting other companies to adopt and adapt to its technology. It's not long before we see every game with ray tracing and DLSS. Without all that technology, the RTX 2060 is still an amazing graphics card in the raw performance department. Through benchmark testing, it's revealed that it'll easily run the 1080p and 1440p games with ease in ultra settings. A fantastic graphics unit that, with its future-proof technology, will be relevant for years to come, providing you an amazing gaming experience. Top-class work from Nvidia, as always.